At 30-plus years old, the North Carolina Zoological Park is the largest walk-through natural habitat zoo in America. It was the first zoo in the United States to put animals and plants together in exhibits that resemble what you'd find in the wild.
If you're going to talk to people about human relationships with the rest of the living world, it's no good showing them an elephant or a polar bear in a cage or in a concrete yard.
The zoo is synonymous with the number 15. There are about 1,500 animals here native to the continents of North America and Africa. They live on nearly 1,500 acres. It was enough to persuade Dr. David Jones to come here nearly 15 years ago. He's a veterinarian who spent the first, you guessed it, 15 years of his professional career treating animals.
And I then made that classical mistake of going to manage people instead of animals. A big, big mistake to do that.
A lot tougher, I'm sure.
A lot tougher, a lot less predictable, I can tell you that.
Tell me about this guy behind us. Who is he?
This is Tsar. He's our sort of prize bull. We've two big bulls, but he came here as a young calf about 33 years ago. He's nearly 11 foot at the shoulder, weighs probably somewhere between 6 and 7 tons. A few years ago, we'd have hoped that he was going to be our big breeding bull, but unfortunately, he fires blanks.
Oh, no.
And so that's the reason why we brought in another bull who does have a proven record.
Dr. Jones feels all the animals here in the zoo's recently opened $8.5 million Watani Grassland Reserve are perfect examples of why we have zoos at all.
You put an 8-year-old up against this fence 40 feet away from that animal, and they've never seen a big bull elephant before. If you want a wow impact, there it is.
But maintaining that mix of entertainment and education is a daunting task. Take, for instance, the African Pavilion, 24 years old and dying.
Any hot, wet building made of concrete and iron, sooner or later, if it's damp all the time, we all know that from our own experience, is going to deteriorate.
So are you planning just to level it?
Absolutely.
The reason? Engineers determined it would cost $10 million to fix it and just take it back to its original condition. Plans are already underway to replace the pavilion with possibly a complex of buildings on the site with larger exhibits surrounding them.
It'll be by far the largest project we've undertaken probably in the history of the zoo.
Then there's the polar bear exhibit in North America. The zoo built it 20 years ago at a time most thought these creatures liked lots of water.
The reality through field research is that polar bears spend a lot more time on land, and they're very, like all bears. So that polar bear exhibit, the land side of that, will be 4 times bigger than it is at the moment. It's going to be a big exhibit, and with the capacity to take up to 6 animals and to be able to breed them.
The state's given the zoo $2.7 million to renovate this exhibit and $600,000 to start the design process for the African Pavilion's replacement. The Zoological Society, the zoo's private fundraising arm, is contributing matching money, and the future doesn't stop there. What is the zoo's next big project? Can we expect to see another continent here in our lifetime?
Right, yes, and we're already looking at that right now as to what is the timing of that, how would we do it. And the Society has just bought 270 acres alongside us with about half a mile of common road frontage, with the idea that as we move towards building what will probably be Asia, the 3rd continent, that we also look at putting in hotels, other support facilities, and maybe another, perhaps completely different, visitor attraction.
But that will take funding in an uncertain economy, not to mention another challenge. How does the fact that the zoo is located 75 miles away from Raleigh make begging for money more difficult?
It's an issue that keeps us all in a sense of humor. Yeah, it's a challenge. When we bring legislators and legislative staff here to see what we've got, both the good, like this, yes, and the not so good, and very often they've never been or they haven't been for 15 years, they are always impressed.
Dr. Jones hopes good impressions will also help the number of annual visitors rise from the current 750,000 to at least 1 million. He also wants them to come back and stay longer, plus...
I want them to feel, firstly, they've had really good value as a taxpayer. $11 million in taxpayers' money comes into this place every year in an $18 million budget, operating budget, before capital. So I want them to feel, wow, we're proud of this place. That's essential for support.